chronicling the times of Northwestern State University, this is DemonLife.
Hey, welcome back to DemonLife. I'm Taylor Utsey, and I'm still here with the national champion, Tracy Rue, and her coach, Coach Mike Heimerman. How you doing still?
Doing great.
So good.
Okay. So, back to what we were talking about. Tracy, can you give us a little outlook on how the championships went from your day of leaving Natchitoches to getting to Iowa? What was it like?
Okay, well, it was actually like a big group of us. So it was me and then one other thrower, Jessica Talley, and then of course the boys 4x1 relay. We all bused to either Shreveport or Alexandria. I've flown so much over the past year that I can't even remember. But we left and we flew into, I think it was Houston or Dallas, one of them. And then we flew into Cedar Rapids, which is like 2 hours away from Iowa, Des Moines, where we were going. So we had all that going, and while we were traveling, you know, of course we were seeing, you know, all the competitors coming in, and we were like, you know, just pointing out people, whatever. So then we got into Iowa, and we had some time to relax, and we went and checked out the track. I, of course, have been there before. We went last year to go to Drake, so I had that advantage that I already knew the track, and I already knew the throwing sectors and the rings and stuff like that. But then basically it was just like any other normal track meet. We went, we had dinner, we warmed up, went to the hotel, had some fun, you know, or whatever. But then I would say like the day before competition, I can never sleep. So I'm always up super, super early. And I think we actually competed kind of early too. So, because we were like one of the first events. So I was up, I was ready to go. I was in the warm-up facility. They have this great indoor facility where you can go and, you know, just get your warm-ups done inside so you don't have to be in the heat so long or whatever. And it was, for Iowa, it was kind of hot that day. So I think that's one advantage that I had over a lot of the competitors.
So you do like it hot?
Right. I love when it's hot outside. Okay. I don't like cold weather or like even just moderate temperature. I like it to be like scorching outside. Okay. So I was like, I did what I normally do. I was drinking a lot of water and a lot of Gatorade, and I was in the indoor facility, and I got my iPod in. You know, I have my playlist that I go through when I'm warming up or whatever. And then after I finished my warm-ups, Mike and I sat down and we talked. And because that was going to be like the last time that I really got to see him before I got into the ring, because I was in the second flight and they corral you in like this little section for like an hour while the other group of girls are throwing, so you can't leave. So, you know, you're sitting there and you're just thinking to yourself, and I was just in my head. I was just going through the routine. I was going through exactly how I was gonna get in the ring and what I was gonna do or whatever. And after I talked to Mike, I went in there and I just did exactly what we talked about. I started off like with a moderate throw. I didn't try to go after it on the first throw, because that's what I did last year. I tried to go after it on the first throw, and while it was a good throw, I kind of just watched it and walked out of the front of the ring. And then after that, I was anxious the whole time. So I got into the ring, and I went out there and I relaxed, and I got a throw in that got me a mark. So I was like, good. That's one thing I didn't do last year that we got in this year. I at least got a mark. And it actually turned out to be a rather good mark or whatever. And so it was enough. That throw was enough to make it into the finals, and I knew that. So that kind of took the edge off a little bit. And then from every throw, I just tried to increase and increase and increase. And I actually was lucky because I had like 2 of the top discus throwers in the NCAA in my flight. Wow. The girl from Arizona State, and then Annie from Tennessee. So I was able to compete with them, so I could see, you know, what the standard was and how people were throwing that day. And then each round, I just tried to improve and improve and improve. And then miraculously, like on my last throw, I remember telling myself, because the one problem I have is being patient with my throw and like being really slow and patient. So my last throw, I remember telling myself in my head, I was like, whatever you do, hold your arm. I was like, hold your arm, hold your arm. And I got in there and
held the arm.
I held the arm and I released it. And I actually thought it went out of the sector. I thought it was a good throw, but I thought it went out of the sector, I guess, from my viewpoint. You know, I wasn't just tall enough to see exactly where things had landed. But then I heard Mike yelling and screaming. I was like, okay, so that must have been okay. And so I walked out of the back of the ring. I was so calm. I didn't get too excited because I still knew that the girl from Arizona State was behind me. And I knew that she had had a PR that was like 3 or 4 feet farther than what I had thrown that day. And so on her last throw, she actually answered, but it was like 2 feet shy of my best mark that day. So it was kind of surreal. I was just like, oh my gosh, I just won a national title. I think the people around me were more excited. Like, you know, in the throwing world, you make friends, you know, because we're all competing against each other, you know, and you can only do what you can do. It's not like track where it's like all intense and you never get to talk to the other person or whatever.
Right.
Like throwing, you stand around, you make some friends. So I have this friend, Faith, from Indiana. She's in the back sitting on the hill watching on a tree, and I hear her yelling like it was her victory. You know, it was so funny. I was just like, wow. And so I really just had to let it sink in.
Were you like numb to the
I think
everything?
so. I think that's what it was, because like at the beginning,
I'm getting numb right now just thinking about pretending I was there.
It was weird though, because at the beginning of the year I started a blog, and the name of my blog was I Will Be an NCAA Champion. Okay, so that was the name of my blog. At the beginning of the year, I told people that I was going to be an NCAA champion, and my fiance and I had talked about it, and I was like, it's going to be in the discus, and we both were like, yeah, it's going to be in the disc, and Mike was like, yeah, it's going to be in the disc. Like, we all were saying this, you know. Now, whether we truly believed it or not, that's like a whole different subject, but we said that I told people at the beginning of the year I was going to be NCAA champion, and then my family had the opportunity to come down and watch me throw. So I think that was what inspired me a little bit more, because my daughter, she was 5 at the time, and she was just so excited to come to Iowa. Well, I goofed up and booked the wrong flight. So they wound up showing up right after I won the national title. Oh. So they were there like right after I got off the podium. So, I mean, but the fact that they were coming was still enough for me to, you know, really just get motivated to do something, because I had set my mind on it, and I knew the discus would probably be my best opportunity, especially like with my wrists and stuff. You know, I don't know, I don't even know if the shot put was really on my mind after I won the disc, but yeah, so then after that, I went through and I did the interview, and the people were like, well, I guess I should interview you since you won. You know, they'd already interviewed the other girl who they thought was going to win, so they were like, my boss would kill me if I didn't get the interview with the actual winner. So I did the interviews, and I was still just in shock, and I walked, and we were walking through, and one of my friends from Tennessee we were just talking, and then I got on the award stand, and I told Mike, I was like, you know what, when I've been on the award stand in the past, I've never done anything to let people know where I was from, okay? Mm-hmm. So when I got on the award stand this time, I was gonna make sure that I did the forkum, and that picture has been the picture that I've seen everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
What's fun is we actually talked about that before the discus even started that day.
Yeah.
She said, well, when I get on the podium, I'll have to do the forkum. And I said, all right, well, you can do the forkum.
You got on the podium.
I got on the podium because it's like, if you look at all the people that we compete against in Division I, it's not like football, right, where, you know, there's like Division I-A, Division I AA. Like in track and field, it's Division I. So the A&Ms, the LSUs, the OUs, you know, these big, you know, bowl games, BCS, you know, teams, whatever, their track team competes with us, you know, so we're on the same level as all of them. And like, I look to my left and my right, and I'm just looking at all these girls from all these different schools, and here I am, Northwestern State, not Northwestern, Northwestern State, standing on the podium. And I think that was just a moment of pride, not only for me, but for Northwestern State in general.
Because there were still some people asking, oh, from
Where
Chicago?
Yeah.
From Northwestern, from Chicago. And I was like, no, you know, even though we put the flaming in our pitchfork over the state of Louisiana, they'll still ask, oh, from Chicago? No, from Louisiana.
So what did you do that day? How did you feel from start to finish?
I felt pretty good. I slept in that day. She woke up, unfortunately, her roommate, Jessica, I think they went and ate breakfast at like ridiculous time, like 5 a.m.,
wow, maybe
6 a.m.
I can't sleep.
And so they went and ate breakfast. I think I woke up at like 8 or 9, and then I went and did a little workout at the gym at the hotel, and then you know, cleaned up, and we had a departure time. I can't remember the time she threw.
Me either.
But you know, we left because you have to be there, and you have to check in an hour to hour and a half before. NCAA, the regional and the national championships have very strict guidelines. So we got there probably 2 hours in advance. We actually got there a little early. She was the first event. We wanted to get a good parking spot, and we got our lucky parking spot right outside the facility.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to walk like a half a mile to the facility. So she went and checked in, and she was doing her stuff. She kind of got in her zone, and I just kind of relaxed.
So were you nervous a little bit?
Until she got the first throw in. She got her first throw in, and it was a nice, relaxed throw, and it went very far. It was right at her PR. So I was like, well, today could be a good day. And then the second throw was a PR. And I was like, all right. I gave her some other guidelines, some other instructions. Don't like doing too much to her. She doesn't like getting too much from me. So usually I don't say anything until she looks for it, because she knows more than I do, as most athletes do. But her third throw, I told her something to do, and she actually tried it, but she was a little too aggressive, and the throw wasn't great, but it was still, it was probably a throw good enough to still make it into the finals. So I was like, well, even on her bad throw, it was still pretty far. So I said, she could do something. So the instructions I gave her in between the prelims and finals, she went out there and executed, because she hit 2 more PRs out of the 3 throws.
So your throws kept getting better each time?
For the most part, they did. And if not better, then they were very consistent. Like, I wasn't off at all that day, which was good.
Yeah, her worst throw, I think, was like 171 feet. I think she opened up with 178 or 179.
What was the winning throw?
192. It was like
192 feet, 4 inches.
Yeah.
You'll never forget it.
Unfortunately, I got this curse that I can remember everybody's
It's
PRs
weird.
of every athlete that I think I've coached.
It's weird. He has like.
I can even tell
Like
you
if
marks.
we put him on Jeopardy.
Yeah, I could probably tell you marks from a meet 4 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
I could tell you probably the first time Tracy broke 50 feet. I could tell you what she threw at her first meet, indoor meet, or I could tell you what one of my other throwers, Latrell Frederick, threw, and he was my second NCAA competitor. 1999, I had a girl in '98 that went, and I could tell you where all the national that's just I guess a thing I'll remember, because at this level it's hard to get kids to the national championships. That's usually our goal, is just to get a kid to the national championships. 1, 2, be fortunate enough to become an All-American, because to become an All-American in track and field you have to place in the top 8. This year it was the first year they had a first team and a second team and an honorable mention, because they take only 24 competitors in each event. 24 competitors is not that many. When you go looking around, there's 33 conferences in the United States. And, our conference has 12 schools. And I bet we had over 30 competitors in each event at our conference meet. So if you take at least, 30 times 33, that's a lot of competitors in each event. And then when you break that down, they only invite 24. It's an accomplishment just to get to the national meet. And then become an All-American. Up until this year, if you didn't place in the top 8, you weren't an All-American, or top 8 or the top 8 American-born athletes. That's how Tracy tied for 9th, and there was a couple foreign athletes that were in front of her, so that's why she got an All-American certificate 2 years ago. Last year she earned, definitely the first one, because she was was first, and she was a second-team All-American in the shot put. And shot put was actually the event I recruited her for. And discus, I made her work the discus, because you have to do 2 events for me. You can't just do 1. With her wrist injury this year, that's what hampered the shot a little bit. But at the end of the season, she was throwing it as far as she's ever thrown it. I just think mentally she was a little still on the high from winning the discus. She was one of, I think, about 4 competitors that threw the shot and the disc that weekend. And she still threw far, but not as far as what we thought she was going to throw.
You're number 1. It doesn't even matter.
I hate to think that might have had something to do with how I performed in the shot put. Like, I don't know. It was just, got my national title.
Well, I'm glad you guys were able to come and be here to talk about this. Hopefully we'll have some more NCAA athletes in track and field this year in indoor and outdoor. We'll see. So this is the end of our segment of Demon Life. Thank you for watching, and catch us next time.